Revealed after 40 days, the divine healing they tried to hide now haunts their souls. The air crackled with reverence as Martha knelt beside her son Daniel's bedside, candles flickering like stars around them. Each flicker was a whispered prayer to Saint Michael, a call to arms for hope and healing that soared through the quaint village nestled among the rolling hills. Their nightly rituals became a lifeline, a divine thread binding mother and son together amidst the dark shadows of uncertainty. The whole village held its breath, watching and waiting, as the days stretched like a taut string. Yet the illness was peculiar, a silent thief that stole away Daniel's joy, baffling even the wizened doctors who whispered worriedly among themselves. Martha held tight to her faith. "Have we not seen miracles?" she would ask her children every night, gathering them close, their small voices rising in harmonized supplication. Little did they know, the whisper of heaven was stirring just beyond their reach. As day turned into night, the little church transformed into a sanctuary alive with fervent prayer. Women of faith gathered in hushed tones, their fervor igniting the air with an electric glow. Each candle lit seemed to draw down the divine, as Martha felt the weight of centuries of love and faith enveloping her. Then, on the 40th night, something shifted in the atmosphere. The wind outside howled like a choir in distress, and a bright light spilled through the stained glass windows, a heavenly pulse that hushed their prayers. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the congregation gathered that Sunday, a palpable energy surged through the church, a sacred current of expectancy. Martha's heart raced as she caught glimpses of the silent wonder on the faces around her. They were all waiting with hope-filled hearts. Suddenly, Daniel emerged from the shadows of the sickroom. The boy who had languished in silence, pale as a winter dawn, now stood tall and glowing. The congregation gasped, then erupted in joyous praise, voices rising to the rafters like a triumphant hymn. But amid the jubilation, shadows crept in. Skeptics, emboldened by disbelief, gathered in hushed conversations, their brows furrowed and lips tight. Was it a trick? They murmured, casting doubts like stones into the sacred waters of faith. Martha felt the weight of their words, a stony burden pressing down on her heart, and there she stood, a beacon of grace, confronting the tide of skepticism with compassion. "Miracles are not only for our eyes," she urged. "They touch the very essence of our souls." With each word, faith sparked in the eyes of others, like kindling yearning for a flame. Yet, doubts lingered like dark clouds, threatening to eclipse the light of the miracle. In that moment, Martha wondered, was it truly a healing, or had they merely glimpsed the surface of something deeper? The question lingered: what does it mean to truly heal? As tensions simmered and the village held its breath, she felt an unshakable urge to explore this divine mystery, standing at the very cusp of something miraculous waiting to unfold. The very air seemed to hold its breath. As Daniel stood before the congregation, his luminous presence ignited a flicker of hope not just in the hearts of those who had joined in prayer, but also within the depths of Martha's grateful soul. Every face reflected amazement, joy, and questions, but Martha's heart whispered a truth: this was only the beginning. "Look at him!" someone cried out, joy lighting the faces of old and young alike. "He is restored." Yet, as their cheers enveloped Daniel like a warm embrace, Martha noticed the shadows lingering in the corners of the church. Mixed in with the faithful were those whose eyes were clouded with skepticism. Their spirits felt heavy and weighed down by doubt, as though the light itself was dimming for them. "How can this be?" one woman hissed to her neighbor. "Where was this miracle hiding all these days?" Martha knew. She sensed it in her bones. Daniel's healing was not a mere return to health, it bore the echoes of deeper miracles yet unspoken. With fervent resolve, she stepped forward, her voice steady yet gentle. "If we only seek signs for our belief, we may miss the wonders hidden in plain sight." The congregation fell silent, curiosity piqued. Faith was built on love, yet skepticism can breed isolation. Healing does not merely cure the body, it mends the heart, Martha continued, drawing courage from her own resolve. Each of us carries our own wounds and battles. Perhaps Daniel's joy is indeed a blessing meant to light the path for others. As Martha spoke, she felt an unmistakable stirring within her spirit. The presence of the Holy Spirit seemed to pulse around her like a warm breeze, nudging her to embrace the challenge before her, the call to redefine healing in her community. Faces turned towards her, some drawn by curiosity, others clinging to the familiar comfort of their doubts. "Can you not see?" she asked them, her arms open wide. "This event is not just for Daniel. It is a spark igniting our collective faith." The murmur of voices diffused through the church, oscillating like the sound of the wind. Some began to nod, embracing the idea that perhaps the miracle reached deeper than they had thought. Understanding blossomed, as neighbor turned to neighbor with small, shared smiles. But just as hope ignited, a voice pierced through the jubilation. "And what of those who still suffer? What of the miracles that never come?" The room fell silent again, the weight of the question heavy and profound. Martha's heart sank momentarily, recognizing the honesty behind the doubt that lay bare and vulnerable. Could faith exist even when healing did not? "Miracles aren't confined to the tangible," Daniel spoke, drawing Martha's gaze to him. "They are woven through tears, through love, through community. Healing can be found in the strength we derive from one another, hand in hand, living out our faith together." As Daniel's innocent wisdom sank into the collective consciousness, a lightness filled the air, casting out the lingering shadows of disbelief. Hope felt tangible, like the glow of the candles that flickered around them, each a testament to faith, yet even in this divine moment, an air of unresolved tension persisted. What would it take to cultivate a forgiving heart among the skeptics? How would their community rise together into this new understanding of healing? And there, in that sacred space, the question lingered, was this just the first bloom of faith, or had they only begun to peel back the layers of a much greater purpose? A mystery awaited them, hinting at transformation still to come. The atmosphere shifted, a breath of anticipation filling the sacred space. Martha looked around at the faces of the congregation, each bearing a mixture of joy and uncertainty. The shadows had not fully departed, lingering in the hearts of those who silently wrestled with their own beliefs. "Let us gather together, as one body," she said softly, inviting the hesitant souls to join her. "In unity, there is strength. In community, there is healing." As she spoke, Daniel smiled, an innocent childlike wonder reflected in his eyes, as if he could see the threads connecting everyone in love. His presence was magnetic, drawing the skeptical in one by one. They stepped forward cautiously, as though entering a soft light after a long walk in darkness. A young girl ventured forward first, her eyes wide with hope and fear. "Do you think I could be healed too?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, fearful that the dream might shatter. Martha knelt beside her, drawing closer. "Sweetheart, healing comes in many forms. It begins with belief, your own heart open to receive," she replied, the warmth of her voice wrapping around the girl like a cozy blanket. "Trust in the love that binds us here today." Daniel echoed her with a gentle nod, eyes sparkling. "Just as I was healed, so can you be." It's not just about what you may see or feel physically. It's about the love from each one of us that carries you forward. The young girl beamed, her fears lifting in the embrace of faith. But again, a voice cast doubt, shattering the emerging peace. "What about the old ones? The ones who suffer in silence and see no miracle?" An elderly man stated, his voice crackling with emotion. A silence enveloped the church. Martha's heart ached, she knew the truth hidden in his words. There were many who ached, who cried out in the silence. But, she pondered, could their pain be a miracle in itself, a preparation for something greater? "Our faith is built on hope, not just healing." The congregation shifted uneasily, eyes darting between the resolute spirit of Martha and the somber burden in the man's voice. And in that moment, Daniel, sensing the collective weight of the question, raised his hands and said, "Let us invite those who have suffered long to the front. Let us surround them with our prayers and love. We can hold them up, no matter the outcome." One by one, the elderly and weary began to rise, drawn by the invitation of unity. Soft murmurs of encouragement filled the air, as members stepped forward, gathering around them like a gentle tide. Martha's heart swelled as she watched a beautiful tapestry of faith and hope weave itself into the fabric of their gathering. What if healing is not just a destination, but a journey we share? She whispered, the thought brightening her spirit. As they prayed together, something began to shift. The old man, previously burdened, closed his eyes, breathing deeply as hope permeated his spirit. A sense of tender connection blanketed the room, merging their collective faith into a powerful force. But then, amidst the prayers and heartfelt supplications, a sudden silence fell. It was in that hush that Martha felt it a divine subtlety, like the whisper of a breeze carrying an unspoken promise. She could almost see the glimmer of hope laced with the warmth of love moving through the crowd. Martha took a deep breath, feeling the weight of anticipation. What if the healing we seek isn't always visible, but transformative in ways we have yet to understand? Her words hung in the air, beckoning the congregation into contemplation. Doubts and burdens remained, yet the seeds of healing had been planted. In this sacred moment of uncertainty, a transformation began. Questions lingered as they held each other in prayer. How would they nurture this budding faith? What divine purpose awaited? The journey ahead shimmered with both mystery and promise, brimming with possibilities just waiting to unfold. In that pregnant silence, eyes began to open, slowly drawing back to the reality before them, a reality transformed by faith. Martha felt the air thicken with expectation, a tangible pulse of hope thrumming through the congregation. It was as if a veil had lifted, shining light on fears, questions, and the intricate tapestry of their lives. Daniel, still buzzing with delight and innocence, called out, "Let us share our stories. Each healing, each struggle tells a tale. We can carry each other." His voice, though small, resonated within the hearts of many, sparking an urge to speak out. One by one, they began to share. A woman stepped forward, her older hands trembling. "I lost my son last year," she shared, her eyes shimmering like glass. "I thought my faith was broken, but in the darkest hours, I felt something deep inside urging me to keep going. It was hope. I felt it so deeply even when grief threatened to crush me." A murmur of empathy folded around her words, wrapping her in warm acknowledgments and soothing nods. Others joined in, tales of difficulty unraveling in beautifully raw honesty, each echoing a common thread of seeking solace, connection, and light amid the shadows. As Martha listened, tears glistened on the cheeks of many. In the sharing, it was evident that healing had already begun. It threaded through those heart-wrenching stories, building bridges of unity that transcended their individual pain. There was power in vulnerability. Daniel stood still, his wide eyes reflecting every emotion in the room. "Just like our stories make us who we are," he stated, "God's love is written in our lives too. It connects each of us. We are woven together, like this tapestry." A quiet reverence settled once more, wordless acknowledgement radiating through the crowd. Martha felt a surge of divine energy. It was in this connection, the spirit of unity pushing them toward wholeness. Tears of gratitude and understanding washed over her as she tried to encapsulate this moment of awakening. "When we share our burdens, we lessen the weight," she encouraged, realizing how true it was. "Together, we illuminate the path, a radiant light with every shared story, every fear lifted to the heavens." As the prayers resumed, she glanced toward the elderly man. He whispered something, as if conversing with the air itself. She couldn't help but feel a swell of faith rising in him too. Perhaps he was discovering a flicker of hope within himself. His brow, once heavy with doubt, now bore a gentle crease of wonder. Suddenly, the old man's eyes sparkled, and he spoke, his voice steadier than before. "I thought I was beyond help," he said, his tone resolute. "But perhaps my suffering is an invitation to connect, to share this pain for a purpose." The congregation erupted in gentle cheers, their hearts intermingling further. Every creased smile, every clasped hand intertwined their burdens and gave rise to something beautiful and unexpected. The atmosphere glimmered not just with light, but the lives of those present infused with the essence of real, abiding faith. Yet as the moments unfurled, a quiet thought crept into Martha's heart. What if this journey leads us to a truth we're not ready for? Deep within, she felt a stirring, a divine whisper wanting to reveal more. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow through the church windows. One can only ponder what awaited them. What revelation would come next? How would their journey of healing unfold, and what mysteries still lurked in wait? With these questions resting in the air like an open invitation, the congregation clung tighter to their shared hope, each heart a vessel waiting for the next divine moment to arrive. In the golden glow of the declining sun, the congregation found themselves wrapped in a sacred hush. Each heart beat in rhythm with the growing spirit of hope. Martha felt the weight of their collective longing as she opened her arms wide, inviting more stories to emerge. They moved like a gentle stream, flowing through the church, pulsing with fresh energy. "Let us not stop here," she urged softly, sensing the growing strength. "Let us dig deeper. What else could we uncover together?" An elderly woman with silver hair and kind, weathered eyes took a step forward. "In the depths of my despair, I doubted God," she confessed, her voice tremulous. "But I found that doubt was not the end. It became the first crack, just a crack through which light could pour. It was after I released my anger that healing began." Nods of agreement rippled through the gathering. The air seemed to shimmer with shared experiences. This was no longer just a collection of individual hardships, it was becoming a powerful testament of resilience and redemption. Daniel's face lit up at her insight. "See?" he exclaimed, his youthful exuberance undiminished. "Every story holds a piece of truth. A light that guides us." He turned towards the room, his eyes animated. "What if our doubts are stepping stones to greater faith?" As he spoke, a new wave of energy coursed through them. Soft cries and whispers of amen echoed, as their spirits soared to meet this profound realization. Martha noticed more smiles breaking through the haze of sorrow, more hope flickered across faces once frozen in despair. But then, another weighty presence stepped forward. A man, whose brow bore the marks of time and worry. "What if," he hesitated, "what if it's not just about our healing? What if our stories, our confessions, awaken something in others? Are we brave enough to be fully seen in this space?" His question hung thick in the air, making space for vulnerable truths yet untold. It was a call to a deeper awakening. Martha felt the stirrings within her own heart, recognizing her own fears of exposure. But with that inkling of fear was a profound desire for genuine connection. She took a deep breath. "Being seen can be terrifying," she spoke gently, looking around as understanding dawned on clouded eyes. "But in that vulnerability, we can find solidarity. We carry each other. Imagine what truths might set free from our hearts." Daniel's small but mighty presence shifted the energy yet again. "I want to share something too," he said, his cheeks flushed with excitement. "I felt afraid, thinking I was too little to make a difference. But those fears, they fade when I remember we are all a part of something bigger." His innocent proclamation stirred deep recognition among many. "Together, we are stronger." An enthusiast chimed in. "Our voices hold power, even when our whispers seem small." Martha felt excitement building once more, pulsing amongst them like a shared heartbeat, an invitation to create change within and beyond these walls. Yet as the light dimmed softly outside, casting long shadows through the stained glass, an uneasy feeling settled on the edge of her heart. Would they find the courage to step beyond these moments of vulnerability? What truths still remained hidden, waiting to be uncovered when they peeled back their layers? Each soul pulsated with questions even as hope glimmered. As prayers swelled once more, murmuring encouragement and resilience, a question lingered: what would they discover when they dared to fully embrace their stories? What, indeed, would the next chapter of their collective journey reveal? As the congregation settled into a reverent silence, the flickering candles cast dancing shadows against the walls. Each flicker seemed to carry a heartbeat, a reminder of life woven through the fabric of their gathering. Martha stood center stage, her spirit buoyed by the tide of shared vulnerability that bound them together. "Let us take a moment, breathe in that love," she suggested softly. The air thickened with expectancy. "What we're building here is not just hope, it's a bridge to our deeper selves." A young man, trembling with a mix of anticipation and anxiety, stepped forward. "I've been holding on to pain for too long," he said, his voice nearly breaking. "I thought sharing it would make it real, like admitting I wasn't strong enough. But I think it's time. Every pair of eyes fixed on him, drawing in the power of his words. It felt like a breath of fresh air, stirring courage within the depths of their hearts. Martha could sense the shift, palpable and electric. I lost my brother last year, he continued, tears pooling. I didn't know how to cope. I felt abandoned, like I was stumbling in a dark tunnel, searching for a way out. Gasps echoed softly in the room. Holding back tears, he added, maybe that's why I hesitated, thinking my sorrow would weigh us down. But, he paused, looking around the room, I've learned that our stories of loss can light the way for others. My grief is part of my journey, and perhaps it can help someone here. Martha's heart swelled. There it was, the beauty of revelation. In sharing pain, they were weaving a tapestry of healing. This congregation was not merely a gathering, it was becoming a sanctuary of transformation. An elderly man, tall and dignified, took a bold step next to the young man. Your courage brings light, my friend, he said, voice steady yet gentle. When I lost my wife, I felt like a ship lost at sea. I thought I had to sail through the storm alone. But it wasn't until I let others in, let my heart be vulnerable, that the sun peeked through the clouds again. Amen. Someone called out, the warmth igniting around them. Each soul bears scars, Martha remarked. And if we dare to expose them, we're not only sharing our burdens but also casting aside shame. Shame that attempts to keep us in isolation. The air thickened with the weight of unspoken truths, prompting a ripple of willing hearts to rise. Voices began to rise in a chorus of confessions, each one a release, a prayer, a stepping stone toward deeper faith. I've been angry at God, a voice called out hesitantly from the back. But I realized my anger was nesting in my heart. Once I voiced it, it started to break free. The words resonated like thunder, silence wrapping the room in unity. Each voice that rose poured out an offering, a testament not just to fear, but to faith that flourished through adversity. Martha felt a warmth enveloping her, as if the divine was knitting their spirits together. Maybe, she whispered, it's in our darkest moments that we find our light. They're beautifully intertwined. A hush fell, the kind that births reflection, leaving everyone lost in their own revelations. What truth still lay buried inside, waiting for the right moment to leap forth? What wounds still clung, and what joy awaited on the other side? As their hearts joined in fervent prayer, a new resolve blossomed, one that urged them to dive into the depths and emerge transformed. And as the shadows stretched and the candles flickered low, an undeniable whisper rose within her. What awaited them in the unveiling of these hidden stories? What profound transformation were they being prepared for, leading them closer to the heart of God? Martha closed her eyes, opening her heart to the unfolding. The journey had only just begun, but glimmers of divine promise danced in the air. What healing awaited them beyond the walls of their fears? The soft rustle of fabric broke the stillness, pulling Martha from her thoughts. It was Clara, a gentle soul with a heart as vast as the sky. She had always been the quiet one, supporting others, yet now, a spark of courage flickered in her eyes. I have something. Clara began, her voice trembling just slightly, but never lacking in grace. I've carried guilt for too long. My mother always told me to be strong, to hide my tears. But I've learned that strength doesn't mean silence. I'm tired of pretending everything is fine. As her words poured out, the room drew closer, as if forming a protective embrace around her. There was a shared understanding and unspoken promise that this was a sanctuary, a place where masks could fall. Clara continued, her voice steadying. When she passed, I felt like I had to shoulder it all. Every time I felt sad, I shoved it down deeper. But she took a deep breath. This week, I finally let myself cry. I found a softness I didn't know I had. And guess what? It felt freeing. It felt like I was finally breathing. Martha smiled, tears brimming in her eyes. This was it, this was the healing they were all seeking. They were shattering the chains created by their silence and fear, forging a path toward collective empathy. God meets us in our weakness, Martha whispered. A murmur of agreement rippled through the congregation like a soft breeze rustling through leaves. Each heart was tuned into the sacred rhythm of vulnerability, a sacred melody that united them. Then, from a corner, the deep voice of a devoted elder, Mr. Hargrove, broke in, honed with years of wisdom. What you've experienced, dear Clara, is a divine release. Pain hidden can turn angry and bitter, but when we open the door, even just a crack, Goddess light rushes in to mend us. The flickering candles illuminated faces, reflecting renewed spirit and hushed breaths of relief. They were transforming in that space, each sharing unveiling layers of burden that had been clinging like dust for years. A young woman, perhaps in her early 20s, shifted nervously, finally mustering her resolve. I've always felt invisible. An afterthought in my own family. Her voice quavered but radiated fierce honesty. I battled with loneliness. It feels like a shadow creeping up at night. Do you think if I share this, it might lose some of its power? Yes. Clara exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. The power rests in our telling. Let it go. Don't let it define you. Mr. Hargrove nodded, echoing, when we give voice to our pain, it loses its grip. We find comfort in our shared stories' strength and unity. What if we looked at our scars as badges of honor? Martha added softly. Each one telling a story of survival, of faith that held us when everything else fell apart. The congregation soaked in those words, hearts swelling with hope. In this place, they were no longer alone, they were a tapestry, intertwined with threads of grace and forgiveness. Past wounds lifted like fog in the morning sunlight. And what if, Martha breathed, as a divine hush settled, what if our vulnerability leads us to something far greater? What if it carries us across thresholds we never thought we could cross? Minds began to ignite with possibilities. Each soul there felt the safe space becoming a vessel for their awakening, a vessel filled with unshakable love. But just then, a chill passed through the room, a whisper of uncertainty dancing among the gathered souls. What awaited them outside these sacred walls? How would they nurture this new awakening amidst a world still holding its breath in doubt? The atmosphere thickened with anticipation. They were at the edge of a breakthrough, but a question lingered like a breathless pause. Would they step forward into the light or retreat back to the shadows? What transformation lay ahead for them as the light nudged them toward the unexplored? The air was thick with an urgency that seemed to pulse in time with the flickering flames of the candles. Each candle stood like a sentinel of hope, casting a soft golden glow, illuminating the faces of those gathered, now suspended in a moment of shared anticipation and unspoken questions. Martha glanced around, her heart swelling with love for this ragtag family they had formed. She could see the hesitance in their eyes but also a glimmer of eagerness. They were on the verge of something profound, a transformation waiting just beyond their fears. We can't allow doubt to haunt us, she said, her voice a steady anchor. We need to stand together in this. A collective sigh escaped from the group, a mingled sound of surrender and resolve. Clara, emboldened by the warmth of shared stories, stepped forward again. We've been so afraid to feel. We've built walls so tall they block out the light. But what if, she paused, her voice dipping low, what if those walls could come down? What if we let vulnerability be our strength? Yes. Mr. Hargrove exclaimed, pulling the attention back to him, his wrinkles radiating a warmth that felt like a blanket. Every act of faith, every moment of openness invites God to transform our fears into foundations of courage. We need to take that step into our truth, knowing we are not alone. As if on cue, the young woman, who had spoken of feeling invisible, took a breath that filled the room with stillness. I feel like I'm breaking free from a cage, she confessed, her voice trembling yet powerful. And I think, if I share how I really feel, it might inspire someone else to do the same. Maybe we could all trade our shadows for light. The words hung like fragile blossoms in the warm air, each member of the congregation absorbing their delicious weight. In that instant, a healing began. No longer did their stories need to be sources of shame. They became the very fabric of a new tapestry woven together by love and understanding. Martha felt a wave of serenity wash over her. The divine often smiles upon our vulnerabilities, she offered gently. Maybe our willingness to be seen can spark something greater than ourselves. A ripple effect of change. It feels like God is inviting us to bear witness not only to our struggles but to His mercy woven through them. The atmosphere shifted, a divine spirit taking root. It was as if the shadows that had once felt oppressive were now receding, lighter with every shared word. The whispers of hesitance turned into declarations of faith. Clara moved to light a new candle, igniting it not just as a flame but as a symbol, a beacon for their truth to shine. Then, a voice broke through the gathering, shaky but resilient. What if we dared to share our stories, our deep wounds, right here, right now? It was Hannah, a member often lost in the crowd, stepping forward boldly. What if we let the light in and acknowledge that we aren't perfect but are being perfected through grace? Gasps met her declaration, eyes widening with possibilities. The congregation felt the weight of her challenge, a call to sacred action. A nod here, a whispered agreement there, everyone felt the shift taking place. Martha took a deep breath, warmth flooding her heart. Maybe our healing begins when we expose our scars. Perhaps what feels like a burden can become a bridge to connect us deeper. As the spirit of openness continued to swirl in the sanctuary, each person felt a pull, a magnetic draw to the stories yet untold, the healing still hidden within them. With hearts aligned in unity and determination, they became soldiers of authenticity, ready to step into the light that awaited outside those walls. But just as hope surged, a question lingered in the air, an unsolved mystery: what awaited them in the light? Would the world embrace their vulnerabilities or cast them aside once more? The future was hazy, painted with uncertainty, yet glowing with promise. What extraordinary revelations waited to unfold on this journey beyond their sanctuary? Martha felt a tremor of anticipation ripple through the gathered souls. Each heartbeat in sync, their collective hope lifting gently like a feather caught in a summer breeze. There, amidst the flickering candlelight, they finally sensed that this was not merely a circle, it was an awakening. Let us lay our burdens here, in this sacred space, Clara urged, her eyes glistening with tears yet filled with an undeniable strength. Let us be honest, open, and brave. She glanced towards Hannah, who had taken the initial leap of faith. The congregation held its breath as Hannah nodded, a silent invitation for others to follow. A young man called Adam, his voice tight with emotion, spoke up. "I've felt so alone for so long. Lost in my own thoughts and fears. It's like I was walking in a fog. But for the first time, I feel there's a way out." Martha leaned forward, urging him on with her gaze. "Yes, Adam, share your journey. In your truth lies healing." Adam clasped his hands together, a gesture of surrender. "I battled with feelings of unworthiness. Every time I think I've made strides, old fears creep back in. The voice telling me I'm not good enough pulls me deeper into silence and shame. But what if I turned that voice into a testimony of grace? What if I see that my struggles prepare me to embrace a higher purpose?" A gasp of realization passed through the room, reverberating like the rush of wind through branches. Mrs. Thompson, a wise elder in the group, softly spoke, "Your words are a balm, Adam. For every shadow you've faced is a corner turned towards light." As Adam absorbed her affirmation, Martha encouraged others to release their hidden stories. Who else feels a tug at their heart? Perhaps God is calling you to share, to bring forth joy from your journey. One by one, they began to speak of their struggles. Echoes of fear, shame, and loneliness surfaced but were quickly transformed by their newfound strength. They spoke of losing loved ones, job uncertainties, battles with illness, and relationships that had crumbled under the strain of unspoken emotions. "I always thought my pain defined me," Clara said softly, "but maybe it's the gift of God nudging me toward deeper connections." "That's it," Mr. Hargrove exclaimed. "Our difficulties don't define us, but how we respond does. That's the beauty of grace. It isn't about perfection but about a heartfelt journey through our imperfections." The candle flames flickered wildly, swaying as if dancing to whispered prayers, and in that warm glow, they felt God weaving their stories into something more beautiful than each could imagine. As the night wore on, a stillness settled over the gathering. They began to pray for one another, lifting each heart with an enveloping warmth. Martha could feel the presence of something divine wrap around them like a soft blanket, holding them, assuring them that they were seen and accepted. And then, just as the evening air turned still, a bold, brave voice spoke up from the back. It was Joseph, often quiet and reserved, stepping into the light. "What if I told you, I'm terrified? I've shared my fears, but what if the outside world can't accept this truth? Can we still believe? Even when those walls don't feel completely down?" A hush fell over the room, and eyes turned to Joseph. Martha could sense the weight of truth in his question, but she also recognized the spark of resilience shining through. "That's the journey, Joseph. It's in learning to trust the grace that holds us, even when the world outside feels harsh." As the gathering fell deep into contemplation, a collective energy pulsed through them. A sense of empowerment was trembling in the air. They began to chant, spelling out their own truths. "I am loved. I am worthy. I am not alone." But just as they began to sense a shift, a flicker of doubt crept in again. Would they have the courage to face the world as they were? Would that newly lit flame withstand the winds of doubt waiting outside? The promise of the night danced in their hearts, but the question lingered: what would the world reveal, and how would they respond? The dawn broke gently over the quaint village, drawing a soft light through the stained glass windows of the little church where hope had ignited anew. Martha stood at the front, eyes scanning the congregation, filled with determined faces ready to embrace the light of their truth. The air was thick with anticipation, mingled with the palpable presence of the Holy Spirit that had enveloped them the night before. Today was not just an ordinary service, it was a continuation of their journey together, a climax of healing, authenticity, and rebirth into a fuller faith. Each soul had gathered not to merely witness a miracle but to become living testimonies of the miracles unfolding within, through shared struggles and newfound courage. "Friends," Martha began, her voice warmed with a conviction forged in vulnerable honesty, "this is our day to step boldly into the world, carrying the light we ignited together. Our revelations, our stories, they hold power. They spark transformation, not just within our hearts but in the hearts of all we touch." A hush fell over the congregation as she paused, allowing her words to settle deeply. The flickering candles, remnants of their sacred night, stood testament to each struggle and triumph shared. Daniel, full of radiant innocence, stood beside his mother, eyes aglow with love. "We are a family now," he exclaimed, his voice ringing clear. "And together we can shine even brighter." The room erupted into soft applause, each note a beating pulse of unity and collective faith. Martha noticed Clara, her heart swelling with gratitude for the way courage was blossoming in every corner of the church. Clara, now emboldened by Dave's gentle assurances the night before, lifted her arm and declared, "Let us not stop sharing. I want to tell my story, to show that our vulnerabilities give birth to love. I want everyone to see that it's in our weakness we find colossal strength." There was a collective murmur of agreement, and the congregation leaned forward, a river flowing toward a shared goal. One by one, souls began to rise, stepping into the light, courage overcoming the remnants of doubt. A man with salt and pepper hair spoke of his addiction and the darkness that had nearly drowned him. "It wasn't until I exposed my fear, my shame, that I could begin to heal. But through the love of this community, I found freedom." Sobs turned into cheers as each new story unfolded, a continuous current of shared pain morphing into a beautiful tapestry of resilience. Martha felt the warmth of grace wash over her, each testimony a thread weaving even tighter bonds of community. "Today, we step beyond ourselves," Daniel proclaimed. "Let us carry this light to the streets, to the ones who feel alone. Our journey doesn't end here, it's just the beginning." Inspired by his youthful fervor, the congregation collectively agreed. They would step out into the world, armed with the stories of truth, love, and vulnerability learned within these sacred walls. As they left the church, they moved as one body through the village, sharing their experiences, offering hands to those still grappling with shadows. Each conversation brought the divine to life in unexpected ways. Like ripples in a pond, they created a wave that touched upon lives, restoring hope where darkness had loomed. Martha's heart soared, witnessing a transformation that would not just ebb away but linger, igniting sparks of change wherever they went. Finally, she turned towards Daniel, you are the heart of this light, my son. Your healing went beyond your own, it allowed us to witness the power of connection. Together, we can do anything, can't we, Mom? He asked with a mischievous sparkle in his eye. Yes, my love. Together, we are unstoppable. As the sun dipped low, casting golden rays that painted the sky, Martha felt divinely assured that they had embarked on a journey of faith that would be woven deeply into the fabric of their lives. Healing was indeed a journey not just individual but collective, a path still awaiting to be unveiled. Their spirits were light, filled with joy and gratitude. Martha knew this moment was only a chapter that opened the doorway to many more. With hearts filled to the brim, they stepped into their new dawn where every whisper of doubt would be met with the resounding truth of love and healing. Now, dear friends, take this light with you. Share your stories, be the voice of love. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss more exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep spreading this message of hope. Comment below with your reactions and personal testimonies about your journey. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this divine manifestation. Together, let us empower and uplift one another in faith.